Good morning once again, and welcome to class. I started the class now. Last week, we started the class with looking at Project Management Foundation, where we looked at the definition of project management. We looked at the related endeavors of project management. We look at the characteristics of project, and then we look at quite a number of other things. So today, we are going to be looking at project management environment. We're going to be looking at project management environment. Please, I would like you to confirm that you can still hear me and see my screen. Please, if you can still hear me and you can see my screen, please kindly type 11 in the chat room so that we can begin. All right, thank you so much. So today's class will be a little shorter than normal, so we might not drag the class here 5 or 6, but we'll have to make the most of our time and then also get to be fast. We have an assignment that was given, and the assignment was on project constraints. We will be taking the assignment in a moment, but before we go to taking the assignment, can we quickly have a very quick review of what we did last week? A very quick review of what we did last week. A very quick review of what we did last week. Please, can we have someone to give us a very quick review what we did last week? Can we have a very quick review, please? What we did last week, can we have someone to help us review, please? Or even if you can't review, or just review the one you can remember. And then another person will do the rest. Can we do that very fast? If your hand is up, I will unmute you. Okay, if we should continue without review, can you please type 22 in the chat room? If we should continue without review, please kindly type 22 in the chat room. If we should continue without review, please kindly type 22 in the chat room. I hope you can hear me. If we should continue with the class without review, please kindly type 22 in the chat room. Okay, so I'm not receiving any response, not in the chat room and not from the UK. All right, Joanne, kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So last week we looked at project management foundations. We tried to look at what a project is. We defined the project as a unique endeavor to produce a set of deliverables within clearly specified budget, time scale, specifications, that's quality and that. Then we also looked at difference between a project and operations. We said the project is like a one-time thing, a temporary thing, and operation is like an ongoing thing, more like a check thing. So we also looked at project supervision, where we talked about loose supervision, moderate supervision, and then high and total control. That's a complete supervision. Then we looked at skills that are needed for project management. We looked at output. We looked at optimizing output and all that. We also looked at cost. We looked at cost in terms of cost overrun, working within cost, budgeted costs, working above it or working less. That's whether it's the cost overrun or a cost underrun or a cost equilibrium. We also looked at possible causes of effective and efficient project delivery. We also tried to look at, we looked at the project triangle where we talked about the scope, the schedule and the budget / resources that will be required for a project. We also talked about the project program, the difference between the project program and the portfolio. And I think finally, at least that's all that I can talk about now. So I think we also talked about project constraints, which was part of the assignment that was given to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mrs. Juan, for that recap. Does any other person have something to add, or we should just proceed? Does any other person have something to add? Please, if today is your first time of joining this class, can you please type 22 in the chat room? Today is your first class. Today is your first time of joining this class. Please type 22 in the chat room. If today is your first time of joining the class, kindly type 22 in the chat room. Okay, you were in the class last week. You were in the class we started this class last weekend, Saturday. So please, if you were in class last weekend, can you please type 55 in the chat room? You were in class last weekend. Can you type 55 in the chat room? All right, so I have. Okay, so that means a good number of us were available last weekend. Since nobody typed 22, it means all of us here were available last weekend. All right, so can we add to what Joanne has said, please? All right, May, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So we also talked about projects having certain characteristics like budget, resources, risk. All projects must have a time scale. And we also looked at the similarities and differences between projects and operations. We said projects were temporary while operations were ongoing. Projects were unique and operations were repeated. Then the similarities, both are performed by people and they all have constrained limits. They require resources and they both undertake risk. We generally looked at project management, which we said was an application of skills, tools, and management resources required for an successful execution. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. All right, so we have looked at the review of what we had last week. Now I want to know, if anyone that has any question, perhaps while you were going through your notes or while you were going through your, we were reviewing your work within the week, you have a question. Okay, Wanja, your hand is up. Please kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. We also spoke. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, we also gave the difference between a project management plan and a project plan, which the project management plan was is defined as the overall information on how the project can be coordinated. That's from the goals to the results, and the project plan was all about the technical aspect of the project. Okay. That's a little I wanted to add.
All right, thank you so much for bringing that up. That's a very good one. All right. Ehizo J, please kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
You're welcome. Good morning.
Yes, sir. So last week we also looked at I think the work breakdown structure.
All right.
Yes, sir. You practically showed us how to work on the Excel environment, which was very helpful to me. But when I got to the office, I was told to do a proposed plan for a project we are starting this week, and it was just quick for me, so fast. So I really want to say it was helpful, and I don't know if you can also expatiate on it today. So that's my contribution, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ehizoje. Every time I say this Ehizoje, I would be like Ehizoje Momo. Do you know Ehizoje?
Yes, he bears the same name with me.
Okay, but you guys are not related.
No, we are not at all.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we have looked at the review. We noticed that some people are having challenge joining us on Zoom. So we've made provision for the YouTube link. So in case you have challenge, you can also join us via the YouTube. We are also going to post that link in the chat room. So in case there is any member in your group that is having challenge, we can just post that to them so that they can join. All right. So let's look at project environment. Project environment. We'll be reviewing our assignment after this section. So after this section, we'll review our assignment before we go on break. Project environment. So we've defined what project is, and we'll define we'll define what project is, and we'll define what project management is. Can someone remind us of what a project is, please? What is a project? Someone should remind us of what is a project, then another person should remind us of what is project management. Then someone should not remind us, but tell us what he or she feels an environment is. Can someone remind us of what a project is? Another person, please remind us of what. All right. Please, Engineer Fomban, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, a project is a unique endeavor to produce a set of deliverables with a clearly specified budget, time, skill, and specification.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that reminder. So a project is a unique temporary endeavor undertaken to produce unique set of deliverables under clearly specified time, scope, and budget with specifications. All right. Can someone remind us of what project management is? Can someone remind us of what project management is? Can someone remind us, please? Can someone remind us of what project management is? All right, Mr. Felix, you're welcome. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, project management is the overall information required to coordinate a project from beginning to the end. That is a top management document.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Project management, the overall information required to coordinate a project from beginning to the end. All right. But that sounds more like project management plan. That sounds more like project management plan. Okay, does any other person have something to say about project management? Please, not the plan, but project management itself. Project management as a profession. Can someone help us? Mr. Felix spoke about project management plan, but I want us to have a reminder of project management only. All right, please, Prince, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Project management is the scheduling the entire activity and processes that involved in the scheduling, planning, breakdown and structuring of projects from the start to the finish. It also involved liaising and collaborating and communicating with project stakeholders, clients, vendors, team members, and it also has to do with working with relevant people throughout the project life cycle. So a project manager is the person who supervises and undertakes the oversight function of the different aspects of the project from the beginning up till the end.
All right, thank you so much, Prince. Your picture looks like that of Obi Kubana. Yes, we heard you. Hope you're hearing me.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, so I said this your picture looks like that of Obi Kubana.
I'm not Obi Kubana, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to give that expansive explanation. All right, please, Mrs. Christiana, you can go ahead, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think, yes, I'll just simply say that project management is like the application of, methods, skills, experience, processes, knowledge to achieve a specific project that would give value. And of course, that has to be done within the agreed timeline, appropriate budgets. That's all I can say for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Approved budget, approved timeline, approved scope. All right, thank you so much. Mrs. Christian, I saw you in one WhatsApp group the other day. I saw you in one WhatsApp group.
Okay.
Yes.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Are you? Sorry?
I think I know the one you're talking about, sir.
Which of them?
The CXPA.
Okay, so you are a CS professional.
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Well done work. And you are among the wives in Lekki, right?
Negative, sir.
Okay. All right, so let's hear from Juan. Juan, please, can you unmute and let's hear from you?
Okay, sir. Just like the last person said, project management is the application of skills, tools, and management processes required to undertake a project successfully. Right. And then we went ahead to say this project management is accomplished through the use of processes, grouped as initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, control, and closing. That was how we defined last week. Thank you.
That's pretty lovely. Thank you so much. So in all of what we've said, the summary is that project management is the application of skills, tools, and techniques and management processes for successful execution of project. And these skills, these tools and techniques and management processes are now subdivided into 5 process groups, which we have as, but I think we spoke about the 5 process groups. Yes, we did. Can someone help remind, I know Juan just mentioned part of it now, but can someone help remind us the 5 process groups? 5 process groups. Can someone help remind us? Group 5 still have difficulties in creating a WhatsApp group. These difficulties stem from the fact that the WhatsApp numbers are not attributed to the names, which makes it difficult to identify group members. Okay. So we'll come to that. All right, please, Ehizoji.
Okay, sir. I want to say the 5 process groups are: number 1, the initiation group.
Okay.
Secondly, the planning group.
All right.
Thirdly, we have the implementation or execution group.
All right.
Fourthly, we have the monitoring and control or monitoring and evaluation group.
Okay.
Then 5th, you have the closing group.
All right. Thank you so much, Ehizoji. once again for bailing the, is it bailing the cat out of the bag or the bag out of the cat? One of them. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so can we have some little discussions on this planning group, or sorry, on this process groups, so that we can have some refreshing before we go to these main lectures. What does project planning involve? What does project project initiation, what does it involve? What does project planning involve? What does project M&E or M&C involve? What does implementation, and then what does closure involve? Can someone just share some, like just pick one and just tell us what is involved? Can someone help us? Okay, just pick one, don't pick more than one, just pick one of the process group and then you can talk about it. All right, Mr. Fombang, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to start from the conception so that at least we get to understand how these processes are interrelated to one another.
But don't take more than one, just take one.
That's what I'm saying. That it's good that I start from the conception so that another person takes planning, and so that it goes chronological, so that we all understand.
All right,
yeah.
Thank you.
At the point of conception, it is that point where you as can say a project management expert, or maybe it is an organization, maybe it is an individual consultant who identifies maybe a problem in the society and wants to provide solution to that problem. And then as a result of the problem, now he starts initiating the solution to that problem. And it is that solution to that problem that he wants to solve that precipitate him to write a project towards that particular domain or in that light. So to me, that's what project conception is all about. I'm talking from the point of humanitarian sector.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for talking from the humanitarian sector perspective. All right. So I want to ask a question, and it's a question open to all. Who is responsible for project initiation? Who is responsible for project initiation? Please, Mr. Mekuleyi, Mike, I will soon unmute you. Please, who is responsible for initiating projects or project conceptualization or project ideation? Who is responsible? Okay, Mr. Felix, I trust you want to answer this. So let's hear from you, sir. Mr. Felix, can you hear me? Mr. Felix, if you can hear me, kindly unmute. Let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you. I can hear you.
All right, go ahead, sir.
The project initiation or conception is owned by the owner of the project.
Okay.
It's owned by
the project
owner.
Is owned by the owner of the project.
Yes.
Okay, but who initiates the project? Is it the owner? Is it the sponsor? Is it the project manager? Is it the team members? Who initiates the project?
The person that initiates the project is the project manager working along with all that are stakeholders in the project.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So the project manager working with the stakeholders in the project. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. Engineer Fombang, your hand is up again. So who initiates a project?
Okay. Thank you very much. I think project initiation can come from maybe the sponsor, the donor, because he has his money. He can say, okay, I have my money, and if I have to help somebody, if I have to help a group of people, if I have to help a community, it should be in this direction. So the project can be initiated by the sponsor, And if it is an organization like the one I work with, Plan International Cameroon, it is being initiated by the country management team or the country leadership team. They initiate the project. Okay. And then now when the project is initiated now, they now look for sponsors, they now look for donors where the project now is being defended. And if it is well, if the proposal is defended very well, then the sponsor is convinced and he's willing to give his money for the execution of the project. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that beautiful answer. Now, there is something that both of us said. That's both Mr. Aworit, Mr. Felix and Mr. Fombang said. From the explanation, is obvious that project initiation is a co-sponsored work. Okay, is co-sponsored, right? Or is co-initiated. All right, but before I will say the last thing I have to say on planning, sorry, on initiation, when do we say a project is initiated? When do we say a project is initiated? That we have an idea, does it automatically means that we have a project? So at what point do we say a project is initiated? At what point do we say the project is initiated? At what point do we say, please, Mr. Mekuleyi, I will still come to you. I know you want to answer about the process group. I will still come to you.
Initiated.
When do we say a project is initiated? Or at what point does a project get initiated? Okay, please, Mr. Felix, kindly go ahead.
We can talk about the initiation of a project when this project is being put into form of being analyzed and scope, timing, variables are being considered and being put down as a form of a documentary layout. These are when it's being initiated. That is when discussions around all other things that will make the project being a successful one is being initiated, is being established. So that is the initiation.
Okay, so from Mr. Felix's point of view, a project is initiated when the project stakeholders get to analyze the project concepts and then decide on whether to have the project or not.
Or not, yes.
Thank you so much, sir. All right. Ehisoje, this your name is so sweet in my mouth. Please, can we hear from you?
Okay, so I think you just said the last word. Project is said to be initiated when business case has been documented and the project charter has been agreed upon. And lastly, management has decided to say, yes, we are ready to either sponsor this project or we are ready to either take it up. So at the point when management agrees that this project should be done, that is when we say that project initiation has been carried out. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much for your wonderful contribution. But just like Fombang said, he was talking from humanitarian sector perspective. I think you're talking from corporate environment perspective. So thank you. All right, Mr. Fombang, your hand, is it up or it was the last one?
Oh.
Okay, please go ahead. Mr. Fombang.
Hello?
Yeah, please go ahead. We are hearing some noise from your background. Please go ahead.
Yes, to me, I think that a project is initiated when visibility studies have been carried out and all the conditions to implement that project is suitable enough for that project to be implemented. And then we know that we have readily available donors whom, if we know that we can convince them, we know that we can convince them with our project and funding will be awarded, then we can think of plan and conception of the project.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I will take the last hand up. Mr. Fire. Is it Fire? Fire.
Yes.
Please. So which one is the name? Is it Fire or Fire?
It's
That's what she was
yeah.
trying.
Yeah.
He was there, I think to try.
Fire.
So now run
All right,
just
please
now.
go ahead.
Next time she's going to meet you back. Run like 50.
Okay.
That's why she was trying. If I take it to put it to try.
Background.
But okay, you tried it for the night. Is that what you're saying? It's like I'm losing. But there was one of the place.
Ehizoje, so it was you that is making this noise on the background with you and your entire family. Eh? Please, Mr. Faye, I thought you were the one. I muted you back. I didn't know that Ehizoje was reading news in the background. Okay,
Yeah,
please
it's
go
not
ahead.
Okay, so first of all, I would like to start from the first questioners. When does what are the processes involved in the initiation? I would say first, once the project chapter has been approved, engagement has been also been actioned. The project kicks up or is initiated when we have the kickoff meeting, when we have had the kickoff meeting with the stakeholders and everyone that is involved in the project. That's when the project kicks off. This is initiated, I would say.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for the beautiful contribution. Please, at all points, if you are not contributing to the class, let's try and keep our mics muted so that we don't interrupt with background information that might not be needed. All right, thank you. Okay, so there have been beautiful things that have been said. Let me read from the chat room. From Henshaw, she said, a project is initiated when a need is identified and stakeholders are brought together to review. Faya said it is initiative after the kickoff meeting is being held with stakeholders. Juan said, I think a project gets initiated when all the stakeholders have agreed on the need for such a project. All right. Now, I want to ask someone to summarize. Since we have everything we've been saying here, they are all correct. Please note, everything being said, they are all correct. Now, what will now be the processes involved? All of the things that have been said, process simply means arranging it in order, right? So what would be the right order of steps? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, as the case may be, that need to be followed for project initiation. What are the steps to be followed? All of the things we've said, they are all correct, but let's arrange them in order, okay, so that we can flow logically. What will be the systematic flow of the information? All of the things we'll be saying things. How do we put them all together so that we can say, okay, these are the processes that need to be followed before we could say a project is initiated? Mr. Mekuleye or Mekuleye, your hand is still up. Don't worry. I will get back to you. I just want us to summarize initiation, then we'll go to the next phase of it. Did someone hear my question? All of the things we've been agreeing on things, how do we put them all up together and say, number one, project initiation, number one, this is what needs to be done. Number two, this is what needs to be done. Number three, this is what needs to be done till we get the last stage. Okay, hope I'm not by myself. All of the discussions we've been having on project initiation, they've all been wonderful. But let's now put them all together. All right, Mr. Felix, let's hear from you. All right,
yes,
sir,
can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
What comes to my mind is probably about 4 steps that will be involved.
Okay.
And these steps could probably be, we create what is called a project charter.
Okay.
That is the first thing that will be created.
Okay.
And Now, after that, we identify the stakeholders.
Okay. I'm with you, sir. Okay, seems the
So this
network.
project by group come with a feasibility, then come with all the teams and the tool that will be required in executing this project. Those are the 4 things that come to my mind.
Okay, sorry, sir, your network was distorted at some point. So let me get it clearly. You said the first thing is to have what, please? Okay, Mr. Felix, can you hear me? Your network was.
Yes, I think that's what is disrupting.
You said the first step
Hello?
is what? Yes, go ahead, sir. The first step is.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
The first step is creating the project charter.
Okay, creating the project charter. Second step.
Identifying the stakeholders.
Okay, stakeholder identification. Number 3.
They run a feasibility study.
Feasibility study. Number 4.
For the project, and you now gather your team and gather your tools.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, sir. So according to Mr. Felix, the first step is charter. Second step is stakeholder identification. Then we have feasibility, and then mobilization of resources. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, I have Engineer Fombank, your hand is up. Please kindly go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
I think the processes for conception goes thus. The first one, you have to identify a need, because every project is aimed at solving a particular problem, particular situation. Secondly, we conduct feasibility studies, where the level of feasibility studies there, you get to diagnose the problem or the need, and then you get to know whom you have to work with. That's the stakeholders. After that, now you collect your data, you do data collection. Then you move to identification of the stakeholders who will be involved in the decision making of a project. And then you get to have a stakeholders meeting. Then you move to proposal writing with the project team. And after proposal writing, you seek for the funding for the project. And if project is granted, then you have a project agreement, and then you can move now to the next stage of planning. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful discussion, and I trust we'll be learning something. From the chat room, Mahisha said, identify project need, create a project plan, get together stakeholders to help push, do a feasibility study, assemble your teams and resources. Okay. Now, remember that everything we've been saying here, they are all wonderful. But if you have your pen and paper, please write this down. If you have your pen and paper, because these discussions we are having, they are foundational discussions, but they are the things that if they are not done right, they will spoil the whole project. So if you have your pen and paper, please type 22 in the chat room so that we can get this. If you have your pen and paper, please type 22 in the chat room. All right. So thank you for having your pen and paper. Okay. I don't know how many of us actually have a note. You got a note, dedicated note for this course. If you have a dedicated note for this course, type 222, like 2 into 3 places. You have a dedicated note for this course, irrespective of your materials you will get and all of that. All right, thank you. So these are the real project managers to avoid information conflict. Okay, so please let's write down. The first thing we want to do in project initiation is project need identification, or perhaps what we simply call need identification, or identifying a project need. So project need identification, that's number 1. Project need identification. Project need identification. Number 2, we have the feasibility study. Feasibility study. Feasibility study. Feasibility study. Next, we have establishing business case. Establishing business case. Establishing business case. Then the number next is developing a project charter. Developing a project charter. And then the last is approvals. Project charter approval. Project charter approval. So I said the first one is project need identification. Second one is feasibility study, project feasibility study. The third one is establishment of business case. The next one is development of project charter. And then the last one is approvals, project charter approvals and buy-in. Project charter approvals and buy-in, buy-in, buy-in. Please, not buy-in, buy-in, buy-in. Okay, so Engineer Fomberg is asking what's the business case. Okay, I will explain that. Okay, now the sequence I gave in all of this, the involvement of stakeholder is iterative. That means from beginning to the end. The involvement of stakeholder is iterative from beginning to the end. Stakeholder involvement gets incremental at some point. The person that first had the idea discussed with someone, who brought in someone, who brought in another person. So the involvement of stakeholders is incremental. It might be noticed that the person who identified the problem might not be the person who will do the feasibility study, might not be the person who will establish the business case, might not be the person who will do the approvals, okay, and the buy-ins. And then these people might not be the ones to do the execution, as the case may be. So stakeholder involvement in project management is all iterative. It runs from beginning of the project to the end of the project. So you could put that as a footnote to all of the steps. Now, let me remind us one or two things before we now go to the next phase or the next process. Under project need identification, please, let's be reminded that the need identification is based on the established vision of the organization carrying out the project. All right? There must be correlation between business goals and project goals. So the project need or the project objectives, the project goals are to be met so that the business goals will also be met. So without the alignment between project goals and business goals, we could be running in futility. So we need to put that into perspective. And that is where the identification really comes in. And then this will help us in remembering some of the situations we've had either in our present organization or in organizations past, where we can come up with ideas and then the management will keep saying, this is not in tandem with what we do here. And then to you, it's like, this is supposed to be the best thing to be done, but they are telling you, according to our vision, according to our goals, this project cannot fly here. So every project that must fly must be in alignment. The goals of the project, the need that the project is set to satisfy must be in alignment to the corporate goals. Now, if it is a community project, the project goals must be in alignment with the goals of the community. Okay, if it is a national project, it must be in alignment with the goals, the objectives of the nation. All right, that's very, very important. So needs must be reviewed on the basis of what problem is it really solving? Does the organization really have a problem that this will solve? Does the community really have a problem that this will solve? Does the economy really have a problem that this will solve? Okay, whether the project is private project, corporate project, community-based project, national project, they must all be centralized towards answering the question, what problem will this project be solving? And does this align with the goals of the organization, of the individuals involved, of the community, of the nation? We need to put that into perspective. It is in that need identification that the stakeholders now do what we call project review, needs assessment. They do project needs assessment. They review all the options around the project so that it will align with the goal of the organization, of the individual, of the community, of the nation. Please, if you understood what I am trying to explain under the first step of project need identification, you understand it very well, please kindly type 11 in the chat room. If you don't understand it, type 00 and tell me what you don't understand. I will explain. If you understand that first step, type 11. If you don't, please type 00 and then tell me exactly what you don't understand, and I will explain. Now, after the project stakeholders might have reviewed, and please, it is important for us to know that when we start taking up project topics, we don't just take up one project topic. We have collection of different projects, similar project topics, and we'll begin to review them, refine them, assess them so as to find the best suit that we can now focus on. We cannot carry out all project topics that come to us, or all project options that come to us. We have to review them to make sure that they are in alignment with the established goals or visions or missions of the organization, of the community, of the country, or the individual, as the case may be. All right. Now, okay, so someone is asking, said, are you saying that needs assessment take place at the level of project needs identification? Yes. Part of the things that must be done before we say a project is identified is the needs assessment. Okay, we need to assess all of the options coming in with the project topics or project needs before we can answer exactly which one is the one we are picking on. Now, the second step is the feasibility study. The feasibility study is finding out how viable this project will be, finding out the possibility of success for this project, finding out the need that we have assessed. Does it really exist? Remember, when you are doing needs identification, it was a group of stakeholders who came up and said, wow, this will be a good one. But now when you're conducting feasibility, you are extending the assessment of the needs, okay, to the people who are going to be making benefits from the goals if they are met, the project goals if they are met. Okay, so you're also conducting feasibility on the materials needed, the team needed, the capacity needed for this project. Will it be able to be, we will be able to have them? You're also considering the sustainable impacts and benefits of this project at the long run. If after you've done all this and you've collected all the data needed to justify that this project will go on, you then go on to developing what we call a business case. A business case is an optimal mix of information gathered from the feasibility report that justifies that, yes, this need is existing and should be processed. A business case is an optimal mix of information gathered from the report of the feasibility for the feasibility study, justifying that, yes, this project is worth doing and should be the necessary commitments for the execution of the project can proceed. So a business case defines that or establishes that definite relationship between the proposed project goals and the identified business goals. That's what the business case does. So the business case is trying to tell us that, yes, the information or the project goals, if met, will help satisfy the business goals that have been identified. So that's what the business case does. Okay, and then from that business case, that's what we now use for further meeting and engagement and further discussion. Yes, Mr. Mike, you're part of the class, please. Okay, I'm going to unmute you to talk about the next process, the next process group. You know, you raised your hand when we talked about the process group. That's why it's okay. Just keep your hand. When we are done with this initiation, we are still talking about initiation. So when we are done with this initiation, I will unmute you. So you'll be the next person to talk about the next process group, right? Okay. Thank you for your understanding. All right. Now, as soon as the business case is established, the management now sees what they are willing to commit to. The stakeholders now have clarity of what they want to, what they are dealing with. All the stakeholders involved. The execution team know what they are coming into face and all of that. So that's what the business case does. And it's on that basis that we can now have the meetings that will justify or give us the approvals or non-approvals. Okay, it is with that business case that we can go to management and seek for approval for fund to move to the next phase of the project, of developing the project plan and the project management plan and all of that. Please, it is important for us to note that until the project business case is established, the project charter cannot be developed. So it's on the basis of the development of the business case that we now go to having an established charter. The charter is what defines the authority in the project, the levels of authority in the project, who owns the project, who executes the project, okay, what are the involvement of the stakeholders involved in the project. We establish that in the project charter, all right? We establish that in the project charter. So the project charter is the first document that gives the authority to execute the project that has been established in the business case. All right. And after that, we can now go to the next phase of the project, which is planning. So now I would like to call on Mr. Mike to talk about project planning. Having established project initiation, what is involved, let's go to the next phase, which is project planning. Now, someone is asking, said, it means that the level of business, at the level of business case, some project can be denied or rejected. Yes, based on the information available on the feasibility report, some can be accepted, some can be rejected. All right, thank you. All right, please, if we understood these processes involved initiation, can you type 1 in the chat room? You understood everything. Can you type 1 in the chat room? Yes, we have not started today's class. We are just reviewing the past class, right? So my slide is still in one place, project environment. So I've not moved anywhere. So when I'm moving, you will see me. All right, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Mike, kindly unmute and let's hear from you on project planning.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good day, sir.
Oh, sorry, our time is 2 hours different. I'm in afternoon where I am.
Oh, sorry, you're not in Nigeria.
I'm not in Nigeria. I'm in Middle East. That is Bahrain.
Sorry, which country?
Bahrain. Bahrain is very close to Saudi Arabia and Portugal.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
You're welcome, sir. So we can accept your good afternoon from there. You're welcome.
You. Yeah. My greeting to the class.
You're welcome.
I've been part of this program initially in the first lecture, second lecture. It was last week Saturday. I was having a lot of challenges in connecting. Okay. I even wrote to the administration through the email and they said they will work on it. Thank God today I was able to connect. My brother is in the house, and that is Mr. Felix. I spoke with him.
That's lovely.
Yeah, I spoke with him that he should help me with the note. Now that I discovered that you can get the note, I mean the manual through payment, I have to send money so that I can get the manual. So I miss a lot of pleasure because of the network, but today's phone is better, it's a bit better. That is why you see me raising my hand. I want to just make myself available and be part of the class since I can connect today.
You're welcome, sir.
You understand, sir? Yeah, is a topic that I love so much, and I'm so interested. Like I told them through my email, I have a lot of interest in project development, and that is even what brought me to where I am. I work with the church, and church decided to transfer me to this place because while I was in Lagos, Nigeria, anywhere I was being taken to, I must carry out the project, and at the end of the day, they would see the beautiful things happen. And that is one of the reasons he said I should come to this country to come and establish church here. So I'm happy. Everything about project is to bring something that you see in your vision that not everybody saw what you see. And at the same time, that thing that you saw, you now bring it into a picture where everybody can see it. My communication, sir.
Yes, we are with you, sir. Go ahead.
You understand? So, and at that point of time, when you see something, which everybody did not see, and that is what we talk about the initialization, you now bring it out. It's a need. And the people, you have to make it available to the people by explaining to them, this is a need that I saw. And how can this need become a reality? And that is the area we talk about a project need. And the people have to look at it, whereby you bring down your feasibility study of that thing that you saw. So either the organization or the management have to look at it and establish a business case on it. And from there, the mind of the people come to be positive. They have to make a development about that need. And after the development of the need, they have to look at how they can approve it and make it to become realized.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for that contribution. We appreciate that. I know you'll be making more contributions now that the network has allowed you to join us. So
and now I want to know the group that I belong to, so that I want to be fully part of this class.
Okay. So we will deal with the groupings. By the time we get to the workshop session, we will deal with the groups. Just try as much as you can to stay on. As soon as we are done with this first lecture, we'll go to the workshop, and then for people that doesn't have group, we'll group them, and then they will be able to participate in the group levels. All right. So can someone help us talk about project planning? Then another person just be preparing to talk about monitoring and talk about execution. Then another person talk about monitoring and control. Then another person talk about closure. I will not take time on these other areas because they are topics that we need to deal with in this course. All right, Javinet. Javinet, please go ahead.
Project planning is all about developing a roadmap for the rest of the teams to follow.
Okay.
And in this phase, the project manager kind of the project manager, he kind of set some, like, organize the team and set some goals for the project to be successful. And one of the methods that a project manager can set in place for a project to be successful is maybe the project has to be smart. That it has to be specific. Like you have to answer all the W questions, knowing who is involved, what is involved, why, when. Then it has to be measurable, like setting some specific criteria to see if the project has been, like, is moving well or not. Then the project also has to be attainable. It has to be realistic. I know that some projects that are not, people just have some kind of vague ideas, which, I mean, realize that they are not realistic. So the project has to be realistic, and the project also has to be time frame.
Okay.
Like time bound, like.
Okay.
That's what I can say.
Okay, thank you so much, Jevinet. Can you help me pronounce that name?
Jevinet.
Okay, Jevinet. Okay. You're outside of Nigeria too?
Yeah, I'm Cameroonian studying in Ghana.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay. Project planning, setting the roadmap from beginning to the end of the project, making the project smart, answering all the W questions, and all of that. Okay. Like I said, I will not dwell so much on project planning because we have a section on project planning. All right. Can someone help us talk about project implementation? Now, I would like to establish that the project charter approval that we have authorizes the project manager to go into project planning, not project execution. Please note that. The project charter authorizes the project manager and his team to go into the phase of planning, not necessarily execution. Because after the planning is done, there are also further approvals that are done. That's where we now start talking about different project documents that need to be used, change documents, issue logbooks and all of that, issue logs. Then we'll talk about project configuration. So the project charter, first of all, authorizes the project manager to develop the proposal, to develop the project management plan, and to develop the project plan, which upon acceptance, upon approval, we then go to execution, right? I need us to know that. Salami said project planning is the process of defining your objectives, scope, your goals and deliverables, and assigning tasks and resources for each step. Thank you so much, Jumoke Salami. All right. Can we have someone talk about the execution? Execute, implementation phase. Can we have someone talk about execution? All right, Farmbank, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that project implementation or project execution, it does at putting in action all what has been written in paper form. That's ensuring that the project objectives and goals are being realized and taking into consideration all the necessary factors that we permit that to happen. That's all I think about project implementation. That's taking action, making the project to be realistic, per se. Thank you.
Okay, so project execution is taking actions to make the project realistic. Okay, thank you so much. Now, I will only add something here. If you look at the things we are doing, you see that they are all sequential. We have to do project initiation first before we go to planning, before we go to execution. So the output of project planning is called the project management plan, and then we'll have the project plan inside the project management plan. The project execution is simply drawing from the establishments that we have in the project management plan to carry out the activities, the tasks there. So project execution is simply ensuring that the project plan is being done the project execution is being done according to what the project planning has said. All right. And then I think I took some time talking about monitoring and evaluation the last time. And I think, was it Joanne that spoke about it this morning? And then we'll have closure. So let's skip M and C and go to closure. Can someone tell me what or tell us, remind us what closure is all about. Closure. Okay, Henshaw said project implementation will involve assessing the project plan, executing the project plan, making changes as needed, analyzing project data, gather feedback, and then provide final reports. Thank you so much for that. Okay, project closure. What do we expect in project closure? Project closure, what do we expect in project closure? What do we expect in project closure? Project closure. Okay, Fumbank, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think for project closure, we are simply taking into consideration that the project was well implemented. It can be well implemented or it wasn't well implemented, because we should note that the fact that we are closing the project doesn't mean that all went well. You know, a project can be closed even when it has not met its objective. If the funder sees that the project is not being implemented as planned, he can decide to close the project, depending on the terms of agreement as well. Okay. So project closure, if we want to take it on the other side, on the positive side, is when the project goals have been realized, and it has been realized both in the short term, and there is hope that in the long term, that project will make meaningful impact in the community as a whole. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate the fact that you have to look at the two sides of closure, okay? Because closure is not just about having the result. A project can be closed on certain terms and conditions. One of it is that a project is closed when the scope is delivered according to the plan. Okay, if the scope is delivered according to what is planned, then we can close the project. When the project goals are met, we can close the project. When the project owner or sponsor or the financier sees that the project need does no longer exist, irrespective of the number of, the amount of money and time that has been spent, that project can also be closed. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I have Mr. Mike. Mr. Mike, please kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I want to respond to that question. Okay. It's almost the same thing. I'm looking at the project monitoring or closure, yeah, is to see that the project implementation go with the objective of the project successfully, or not meeting up with the objective.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, can we take a 2 minutes break now that we've reviewed almost everything we did the last time? Can we take a 2 minutes break, and then when we come back, we can go to the next class for today. Let's take a 2 minutes break. Okay, let's take a 2 minutes break. All right, thank you so much. And welcome back to class. I trust we had a nice 2 minutes. There is someone I'm expecting in this class that I've not seen. Deborah. I think she's in group 1 or group 2 or group. Deborah. I've not seen her. Henshaw, I think that Deborah is in your group. She's in group 5. Okay, so, all right. So since our group has been identified, okay. Because I know 2 of you were disturbing me, not necessarily disturbing me. We were communicating within the week. Okay, all right. So can we go to the next topic, which is project environment? Project environment, project environment, project environment, project environment, project environment. So we've looked at what project is, project management, and then we've looked at the project processes. That has given us some form of refreshing. So let's quickly look at the project environment and then see what we can come up with. Now, by the end of the session, participants will be able to define basic terms associated with project environment, list the enterprise environmental factors involved in any given project, elaborate on organizational process assets, create stakeholders list, and they should be able to discuss influences on projects, So now let's go. By introduction, projects exist and operate in environments that may have an influence on them. Now, this influence may be positive or negative. These influences can have a favorable or unfavorable impact on the project. Okay. 2 major categories of influences are the enterprise environmental factors that we refer to as EFs, and then we have the organizational process assets, OPAs. EFs originate from the environment outside of the project and often outside of the enterprise. They originate from outside of the environment. They originate from the environment outside of the project and often outside of the enterprise. So EFs most often are things outside of the control of the project manager and the project team, and perhaps outside of the control of the project stakeholder completely. Okay. Now, EFs may have an impact at the organizational, portfolio, program, or project levels. OPAs, on the other side, are internal to the organization. These may arise from the organization itself, a portfolio, a program, another project, or a combination of these. In addition to EFs and OPAs, organizational systems play a significant role in the life cycle of the project. System factors that impact the power, influence, interest, competencies, and political capabilities of the people to act within the organizational system are discussed further in the section on organizational systems. So we have a section to discuss on organizational system. But from the diagram you see there, you see that the influences on project, you have basically EFs and OPAs. Then on the EFs, you have the external EFs and you have the internal EFs. Remember, I said that EFs majorly generate from the environment outside of the project. So that means EFs will be mainly external to the project. They will have the organizational process assets that are internal to the organization, and then under it will have the processes, policies, and procedures, and then we'll have the corporate-based knowledge or the corporate knowledge base for as part of the factors that internally affect or influence projects. So this diagram here tells us, in summary, the influences on project and the things we see in the project environment. And then also this helps us to categorically have project environment in 2 domains. We have the internal environment and we have the external environment. Where the internal environment deals more with the OPA, and the enterprise environmental factors deals more with the external environment. All right. Now, by definitions, we have some things to define. We have the project phase, which is a collection of logically related activities, usually resulting in the completion of a major deliverable. Then you have organizations performing projects usually divide each project into several project phases to improve management control and provide links to ongoing operations. The phases may be sequential, iterative, or overlapping. So in the last class, we talked about breaking down your project into phases. When we were talking about scope, we talked about breaking down your project into phases. And then we said that a phase comprises of activities, and the end product of a phase is a milestone, right? Now, these phases might be sequential. That means you finish one phase before you move to the other, or they might be iterative. That means they keep repeating themselves, or they might be overlapping. That means they're occurring the same time, okay? Either they are starting the same time or they are finishing the same time, but there are levels of overlaps, all right? Now, note, the deliverables and the phases are part of a generally sequential logic to ensure proper definition of the product of the project, all right? Very important. This is serious. Now we have project phase characteristics. Each project phase is marked by completion of one or more deliverables. Each project phase is marked by completion of one or more deliverables. The conclusion of a project phase is generally marked by a review of both key deliverables and project performance to date. So before we could say a phase is completed, we look at the proposed deliverables, and then we look at the performance to date, the project performance to date. All right. This is done to determine if the project should continue into its next phase and dictate and correct errors cost effectively. Note, phase end reviews are often called phase exits, phase stage gates, or cue points. So at the end of every phase, we review phases. Now that review we do, we call it a phase exit, we call it stage gate, we call it cue point, as may be used interchangeably. So phase end reviews can be called phase gate or stage gate rather, phase exits, cue point, and still on definition, we have project lifecycle. This is the series of phases that a project passes through from its start to its completion. The project lifecycle is the series of phases. The phase is the collection of activities or tasks. Project lifecycle is the collection of phases. Please, I need us to know that. A phase is a collection of logically sequenced tasks, activities. A project lifecycle is the collection of phases, collection of phases. All right. So this is a series of phases that a project passes through from its start to its completion. It provides the basic framework for managing the project. Project lifecycle can be predictive or adaptive. Within a project lifecycle, there are generally one or more phases that are associated with the development of the product, service, or result. These are called a development lifecycle. Now, development lifecycles can be predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or a hybrid model. Now, I want us to look at something here. Project lifecycles can be predictive or adaptive. That's for project lifecycles. But for developmental stages or the developmental development lifecycle, they can be predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or a hybrid model. Project lifecycles generally can be predictive or adaptive. Development lifecycle can be predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or a hybrid model. Now that takes me back to talking about project management plan and project plan. This is just what the project plan talks about, the developmental stages of the project. Why the project management plan gives us the total life cycle involved in the project. So now it is telling us that a project management plan can be preempted, it can be predictive, it can be adaptive, it can be well defined from the beginning, or it can be prone to changes. That's what it's trying to say. Now, on the other side of the development, which is execution via the project plan, the project plan, the life cycle, the development life cycle, which is where the project plan is being used essentially. It can be predictive. That means the project plan can be defined in such a way that is definitive. We are definite of the scope, we are definite of the time, we are definite of the budget. It can be iterative. That means we have phases that are being done over and over within the project. For instance, monitoring and control is over and over. So it's an iterative. Planning is an iterative assignment. Scheduling is an iterative assignment. So some projects may have that continuous iteration over time, over monitoring and evaluation activities, over planning. Okay, then it can be incremental. It moves from one phase. After we complete one phase, we move to another phase, from another phase to another phase. That's being incremental. Then it can be adaptive, such that no matter the change, it can adapt and be able to carry on with the project. And then it can be a hybrid model in the sense that it can be predictive and adaptive at the same time. That kind of model is what we call the Agile model. The Agile model is the model that makes room for predictive and then also makes room for changes as the case may be. Now, what we have on the screen is a typical example of a life cycle, okay? A project life cycle which has a beginning and an end, all right? So from beginning, you see it move, then it goes to the execution phases, and then when it gets to the peak, it starts dropping down, okay? That's a typical project life cycle. Then on the other side, you have the development life cycles, which can be predictive, iterative, incremental, adaptive, or hybrid. Now, quickly, let's look at project lifecycle. The project lifecycle serves to define the beginning and the end of a project. Deliverables from the preceding phase are usually approved before work starts on the next phase. Note, a subsequent phase is sometimes begun prior to approval of the previous phase deliverables when the risks involved are deemed acceptable. And this overlapping practice is called fast tracking. So we use fast tracking when the risk in the previous work or the next one we're doing before approval, when the risk is at the barest minimum, then we can fast track. Okay, we can fast track. But if the risk is beyond, or the possible risks are beyond what you could just overlook, then it's important when you're done with a phase, you wait for phase end reviews. After the reviews, you get approval to move to the next phase. Okay, very, very important. Common characteristics of project lifecycle: cost and staffing levels are low at the start and move higher towards the end. So like you see, here you have staffing, cost and staffing levels. So at the beginning of the project, it is low, but as the project proceeds, it gets high. And then towards the end of the project again, it starts dropping, okay? Now, probability of successfully completing the project is low at the beginning, higher towards the end as project continues, yes. The possibility of project success is always very slim at the beginning because at this point, you're not definite. At the initiation phase, we are not completely definite of what we're doing. And that's why we need to do all of those needs assessment, do all of those monitoring. And essentially, we do more of the screening of the project to be sure that we meet up with what we want to do. All right. So the project success gets clearer as we have more clarity on the project scope, on the project budget, on the project goals, and the project schedule. Now, stakeholder influences is higher at the beginning. Yes, because they don't want to lose their money. Okay, so the influences at the beginning is high. They just want you to do it exactly the way they want it. So they provide strict supervision at the beginning. So their influences are higher. But they're at a point in the project, their influences begin to come down. Okay, because now there had been some establishment of trust. There has been some establishment of some sort of loyalty and integrity. And then the project, the influence then begins to lower as the project moves towards the end. Okay. Now, let's quickly look at the project and the development life cycles. The project life cycles are development life cycles. We have the predictive life cycle, iterative life cycle. Please note that the predictive life cycle, all of the life cycles here are much more on the development life cycle, but the predictive and the adaptive are the ones focusing more on the project life cycle, right? Now, for the predictive life cycle, in a predictive life cycle, the project scope, time, and cost are determined in the early phases of the life cycle. So in a predictive life cycle, everything or the constraints surrounding the projects are defined from the beginning of the project. Any changes to the scope are carefully managed. Predictive life cycles may also be referred to as waterfall life cycles. And then you see an example of a predictive life cycle. You have feasibility, you have analysis, you have design, you have development, test, and implementation. So if you look at it, there is nothing iterative here. Okay, there is nothing iterative here. All right, so it's just from one phase to another. All right, then you have the other phase of iterative. Iterative is, iteration simply means repetitive, more of a circle. All right, you do A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. So each phase each phase in an iterative cycle gets to perform the activities just over and over again. So you have phase one, you have A, B, C, D. Go to phase two, A, B, C, D. Go to phase three, A, B, C, D. Go to phase four, A, B, C, D. So the iterations keep running through. Okay, all right. All right. I trust we are still together. So in an iterative life cycle, the project scope is generally determined early in the project life cycle, but the time and cost estimates are routinely modified as the project team's understanding of the product increases. Iterations develop the product through a series of repeated cycles, while increments successively add to the functionality of the product. So there is increment in the phases. The scope, we know the scope, we know what we want to do, but there are consistent additions to the phases that makes for change to time, change to budget. All right, so if you look at the example of what we have, you see phase one, iteration one, you see testing, development, design, we are done, right, with that particular one. Then there is need, or we now have another understanding of something we want to add to this particular product. We then go to iteration two, do the same thing, test, develop, design, develop, and test. We are done with this one. We come up with another product. Then we go to the next one. So you see, I have one phone I'm using. They call it, is it Y, is a Huawei, I call it Huawei. I don't know whichever name they call it, but Huawei. So when I bought this particular product, I can't remember exactly the name, but I think it was in 2019, I bought the phone. And then just barely 2 months, I bought the phone. They now, the same model of phone, but they now say it's now 20, 2020. We were still in 2019. They brought out 2020. And then by the time you know it, they brought out 2021. The same phone, just that they keep adding some functionalities to it. That's repeating the same phase, producing almost the same product, but now with added features. That's why we say why increment successively add to the functionality of the product. So each of the phase will give us a product. Each of the phase will give us a product. Each of the phase will give us a product. That's iterative lifecycle. And this is also an agile lifecycle. In agile project management, I said we will deal with agile project management in level 3. In agile project management, we'll talk about sprints. Okay? And the iterative lifecycle is just similar to a sprint. Sprint is the longest duration of a sprint is possibly 2 weeks. So within 2 weeks, you deliver a product, and then with time, there is need to work on the same product again or add functionality. Within another 2 weeks, you come up with something. So agile project management allows us to have the shortest time for project product delivery. Okay, so if you bring in the ideology of agile into iteration, then these cycles will not last more than 2 weeks. Okay, and you have each 2 weeks you have different product. Each 2 weeks you have different product. All right. Then you have the other one of incremental lifecycle. In an incremental lifecycle, the deliverable is produced through a series of iterations that successively add functionality within a predetermined time frame. Okay, so the incremental lifecycle and the iterative lifecycle is almost the same thing. The only difference between iterative and incremental is that while iterative does not have a defined time frame, incremental has a defined time frame of which the new product has to come out. Okay, so if you look at what we have there, the example is almost like the same of that of the iteration, but here we now have the first increment, the same process, the same tasks. In the first increment, the same tasks. In the second, just the same order of iteration, but this whole project must be done within 2 to 4 months. That's all we know. So, no matter how you want to delay, we just have to get this product within 2 to 4 months. Okay. Then we have the adaptive lifecycle. Adaptive lifecycle allow us to manage changes as they occur. So adaptive lifecycle are the agile, iterative, or incremental. The detailed scope is defined and approved before the start of an iteration. Adaptive lifecycles are also referred to as agile or change-driven lifecycles. So they are all about change. Okay. Now, the basic steps involved here, you have the speculation to collaboration to learning and then release. So you speculate, you anticipate changes, you collaborate to manage those changes, you learn from the changes, you release a new product, you go back anticipating new changes. So today we have things like artificial intelligence being part of this whole process of adaptive lifecycle. Like in your phone, you have Google Assistant. Google Assistant is part of the things that make adaptive lifecycles visible. All right. Okay, I have a hand raised up. Someone is saying cannot see the adaptive lifecycle. Sorry, can I? Say my slide is not changing. Oh, lovely. So let's go back to where we started from then. So my slide, where did it stop? Where did my slide stop? So I think it stopped at the iterative. So let me reshare. Okay, so is it changing now? If it's changing, please do let me know. So we've spoken about iterative, and this is incremental. Like I said, iterative doesn't really have specified time frame. Just keep reiterating to get the products that you want. But for incremental, everything must be done at a specified time frame. till we get the final iteration. Now for the adaptive, the whole process involves we have speculation, collaboration, learning before we release. So we speculate changes, then we collaborate to solve these changes or to solve the problems that the changes will bring. And then we'll learn from the whole process, we release, we speculate again. So if you look at it, it's an iterative process also, okay? Then we have the hybrid model. The hybrid model is a combination of the agile processes and the predictive processes. So the waterfall processes and the agile, the waterfall lifecycle and the agile lifecycle, or the change-driven lifecycle. So in a hybrid, you have a combination of predictive and an adaptive lifecycle. Those elements of the project that are well known or have fixed requirements follow a predictive development lifecycle, and those elements that are still evolving follow an adaptive development lifecycle. You can see an example of what we see there. So planning and initial requirement analysis and design, initial project backlog and sprint plan, all of these are well known. So we can put them in the waterfall dimension or the predictive dimension. And then for the ones that are not well known or they keep changing or have possibility of changes, then we can put them in the agile or agile region. The phases in a project, in an agile project environment is called sprints. The phases are called sprints, and that's what you see the agile sprint. So in the agile sprint, you have the iteration planning, updating backlog, project backlog, defining iteration backlog, then you have design, build, test, partial UAT. Don't bother about those technical terms, okay? Just focus on design, build, test, yeah? And then you have review working software, review process assets, and then you have your daily meetings to do all this review. All right, then at the end of the day, you have your question and answer, you have your deployment of the software, then you come back to the planning, the phase, or the waterfall phases, you go back to the agile sprint, and then it keeps going on like that. That's a hybrid model, okay? Okay. So finally, Debbie is in class. Debbie, I've been asking of you. We are already planning to come pay you a visit. You're welcome. Okay, now so far so good. Do I have a question before I go to the next phase? We'll soon be going on break. Do I have any question? We started with project environment, and then we've been trying to define some things. Do I have any question? Okay, so Joanne, your hand is up. Please kindly unmute and let's hear from you.
Yes, sir. If I understand what you just explained clearly,
yeah,
we have two major life cycles. That's the predictive and adaptive.
Yes.
And these other life cycles, like the hybrid, iterative, and the rest, are just like adaptations, or how do I put it now? Like just part of the adaptive or adaptive and the predictive life cycles.
You're right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Do I have any other question? Let's clarify issues before we move on. Okay, so please, if I should move on, kindly type 1 in the chat room. If I should proceed, please kindly type 1 in the chat room. If I should proceed, kindly type 1 in the chat room. Okay, so someone asked in the chat room, please, what is EEF and what is OPA? So I said EEF, those conditions that are outside of the control of the project team and the project manager or the project stakeholders completely. So they are external factors that influence the success of a project. Those are called EFs, enterprise environmental factors. While the OPAs are the internal conditions that can also influence a project either positively or negatively. So they can be favorable to the success of the project or unfavorable to the failure of the project. So those are the two major conditions or the two major factors that are involved in the project environment. However, there are other factors like organizational systems, organizational structures, cultural issues, and all of that. Okay, all right. So I think I have permission to proceed. So let me go on. Please, I will recommend, in case you've not gotten your material, please try as much as you can to get the material. We have two materials that will be made available to you. We have the PDF, which is downloadable. We have the PowerPoint, which is viewable. PDF downloadable, so you can download and read at your own pace. But if you want it on PPT, PowerPoint, you can only view that. You might not be able to download PowerPoint. Okay. And then also try to go through the videos after each of the classes. So you could play them in your car while going to work. You could play them at your own leisure so that you can get acquainted. And perhaps in the process of playing it, if you have questions, you could always reach out to us. You don't need to wait till Saturday, the next Saturday, before you ask us questions if you have any. Okay, just feel free to ask us. Okay, so someone is asking, how do we get the materials? Okay, so Jumoke, is this your first time of joining the class? Please, if this is your first time, type yes in the chat room. Okay, so if this is your first time, the material to have access to the materials is material is 10,000 naira or $35, depending on where you're joining us from. The total cost of this program for those who are interested in certificate is 65,000. And if you're are you in the WhatsApp group? If you're in the WhatsApp group, you should have seen the information we post there. And I will also recommend people, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, please try as much as you can to join the WhatsApp group. And please try as much as you can to read the information there so that we don't keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Okay, please. All right. Now, quickly, let's look at phase gate. Serious. Let's look at the phase gate. So Jumoke said she's not in the WhatsApp group. So let's get her the WhatsApp group link. When you apply for IIPM program, automatically you are sent this information. If you don't get to be in the WhatsApp group, it simply means you did not read all the emails we sent to you. So we are also calling on everyone, please try as much as you can to read all mails sent to you. So Jumoke, I am posting the WhatsApp group now so that you can join and get all the information. Okay. All right, just a second, I will be with you. All right, thank you. Okay, so I have some people playing music downstairs, and hope it is not, is the noise too much from your end? I'm hearing some music I don't even know where it's coming from, but I know perhaps some of the people in the other environment just have empathy. So it's like some people have empathy within the environment. So please, the noise, is it too terrible? The party noise from the neighbors compound, is it that terrible? Can you still hear me loud and clear without? Okay, so it's fine. All right, thank you. So phase gate, it is held at the end of every phase. The phase gate is also called phase end review, like we said the other time. Basically, you review to see if the deliverables were met and then review the performance of the project to date. All right, it is held at the end of a phase. The project's performance and progress are compared to project and business documents. Depending on the organization, industry, or type of project, phase gates may be referred to by other terms as phase review, stage gates, key point, and phase entry or phase exit. These are some of the terms we use. Now we have another definition here of work performance data: the raw observations and measurements identified during activities performed to carry out the project work. They will have work performance information, the performance data collected from various controlling processes, analyzed in the context and integrated based on relationship across areas. Now, why work performance data is simply figures of information gotten that have not been analyzed. The work performance information itself has been analyzed. Okay, they will have the work performance reports, the physical or electronic representation of work performance information compiled in project documents, which is intended to generate decisions or raise issues, actions, or awareness. They will have methodology. This is a system of practices, techniques, procedures, and rules used by those who work in a discipline. They will have tailoring. Tailoring is a selection of processes, tools, techniques, inputs, or outputs required for every project. Tailoring is necessary because each project is unique. Now, when doing a project, you agree with me that the processes, tools, and techniques, inputs, or outputs that are used or expected from, let's say, from event planning project cannot be the same for maybe construction project. So in that case, it means that irrespective of what we are learning, we need to now adapt this knowledge, these competencies, these skills, the way it suits our own project. We shouldn't use general knowledge for all project activities. Okay, so that's what tailoring is trying to say. Tailoring is trying to say that your process, your procedure, your tools and techniques for each project should be different based on the type of project involved. All right. Okay, now quickly, let's look at enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Whew. Enterprise environmental factors, EFs, refer to conditions not under the control of the project team that influence, constrain, or direct the project. These conditions can be internal and or external to the organization. EFs are considered as input to many project management processes, specifically for most planning processes. These factors may enhance or constrain project management options. In addition, these factors may have positive or negative influences on the outcome of the project. Now, under EFs, we have two types of EFs. We have the internal EFs and we have the external EFs. In the internal EFs, we have organizational culture, structure, and governance. We have geographical distribution of facilities, resources. We have IT, so we have infrastructure, we have IT software, resource availability, employee capability. These are the internal EFs that exist within the organization. Now, under the external, we have market conditions, social and cultural influences, legal restrictions, government and industry standards, physical environmental conditions, financial considerations, and commercial databases. These are the two types of enterprise environmental factors that can affect the project and may sometimes be outside of the control of the project team. Okay. Now, for the other side of organizational process assets, OPAs. OPAs are the plans, processes, policies, procedures, and knowledge bases specific to and used by the performing organization. These assets influence the management of the project. OPA include any artifact, practice, or knowledge from any or all of the performing organizations involved in the project that can be used to execute or govern the project. The OPAs also include the organization's lessons learned from previous projects and historical information. OPAs may include completed schedules, risk data, and the end value data. OPAs are input to many project planning processes or project management processes. Since OPAs are internal to the organization, the project team members may be able to update and add to the organizational process assets as necessary throughout the project. Now, for OPAs, we have two dimensions to it. You have the processes, policies, and procedures, and then you have the corporate knowledge base. Under the PPP, you have policies, procedures, templates, guidelines. Under the CKB, you have the risk register, lessons learned, past project files, historical information. So these are the things we have in the organizational process assets. Now, quickly, we'll go on a break. We'll go on a 5 minutes break. But in this break, we are going to go back to our report, our group work. So in the group work, this is what we're going to do. In the group work, we are going to identify the EEFs and OPAs that could affect our project, the project we've designed. So we are going to identify the OPAs and the OPAs and the, what do you call it? The OPAs and the EFs for each of these projects that we have. Do you get my question? Do you get my question? In the assignment that we already have, in the group assignment that we already have, we are going to add to it now the EFs and the OPAs that may affect our project. Okay. Do I have any question? I may have to give us up to 30 minutes break so that when we come back, we will now take the presentation before we go to the next class. Our next class will be on project stakeholders. Okay, our next class, still a continuation of the project environment, that will be on project stakeholders. But before we go to project stakeholders, we'll take some few minutes break. And then when we reconvene, do this. Okay, so I will only give us 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, review your work, and then add to it your OPAs and your OPAs and your EFs. Meanwhile, I think it's time we'll break the class. If you don't have a group yet, if you're not in any group yet, can you please raise your hand? Can you please raise your hand, like indicate with a raise of hand if you're not in a group yet? Okay, so we have Comfort, we have Mike, we have Ovi, we have Ihizoje, we have, okay. So can we have group 1, 2, 3 to 5. Please, can we post our WhatsApp links in the chat room? Can we post our WhatsApp links in the chat room? Group 1 to 5, can we please post our WhatsApp links in the chat room so that we can move these people to a group? Okay, Ada also is not in a group. Okay, I said if you can raise your hand, like others have done, like Comfort Mike has done, just raise your hand so that I can easily see it. I may not be able to see it all in the chat room. So if you can raise your hand, I would really appreciate. So can we have all the WhatsApp groups posted here so that we can quickly assign people to them? I hope you're hearing. I hope we can all hear me. Please kindly confirm that you can hear me. If you can hear me, type 1 in the chat room. If you can hear me, kindly type 1 in the chat room. If you can hear me, kindly type, okay. So I have group 4. So Comfort and Mike, Comfort Onasanya and Mike Oluwole, can you please join group 4? Please go to group 4. The group 4 link has been posted by Fire. Kindly join there. Then group 3, Ovi and Ehizoje. Let me see how many. Okay, so Ovi, kindly join group 3. Ovi, join group 3. Ovi, join group 3. Ehizoje, please join group 1. Ehizoje, join group 1. Ehizoje, join group 1. Ovi, join group 3. Mike and Comfort, join group 4. So where is group 2? Where is group? Where is group? Okay, Jumoke doesn't have a group. Okay, so Jumoke, please join group 3 also. And then Ada, please join group 1. So Ada, join group 1. Ehizoje, join, Jumoke, join group 3. Ada, join group 1. So if you've joined the groups, you can bring down your hand. If you've joined any group, you can bring down your hand. If you've joined a group, you can bring down your hand. If you've joined a group, Comfort and Mike, join group 4. Okay, so Mr. Mike, kindly join group 4. Mr. Mike, kindly confirm you can hear me. Mr. Mike, kindly confirm you can hear me. Unmute and let's hear from you, please. Okay, so I believe everyone has a group now. Is there anyone who doesn't have a group yet? You see, some people will not come to class, but they will come and be disturbing us. We are not in a group. We are not in a group. We don't just share group like that. We only share group during workshop. So if those people are not willing to come to class and join the workshop, we too won't be able to add them to a group. Is there anybody here now who doesn't have a group? Let me know. You don't have a group, please raise your hand. You don't have a group, please raise your hand. So everyone has a group now. Everyone tentatively has a group. Okay, so we are going to go on a break for 30 minutes. Let's just take 30 minutes. So by 12:40, okay, in the next 30 minutes, we'll be back. So we'll post the information in the chat room. So what are we going to do? Review your assignment. In your assignment, add your OPA and your EF. And then when we return back, we'll present it. Any question for me? Any question for me? Okay, so in the absence of any question, we are going on a break now, and then we'll be reconvening in the next 30 minutes. Thank you. We are logging off completely. So see you in the next 30 minutes. Use your WhatsApp group to have your assignment, please.